What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. This is your boy Frankie Bones, and in today's video we're going to be recapping the Rays series for the New York Yankees. We end up splitting the series with them at home, which I think is a pretty good result for us. Definitely could have walked away with a Game 4 win, but we'll get on to talk about that in a little bit. The Yankees are rounding back into shape with some much needed help, hopefully coming in the near future. Just before we get into this video, if you guys enjoy, please feel free to drop a like and subscribe if you're new to not miss out on any more Yankees content in the future. So like Ed mentioned, the Yankees and the Rays end up splitting this series. We'll start things off at the beginning with game number 1. The Rays end up taking this game 8-2. Drew Rasmussen ended up pitching really well for them. 7 innings, 0 earned for them. And the Rays were really just able to manufacture runs throughout this game. Able to get a lot of guys on base, create traffic, and end up just, hitting well with runners in scoring position and getting the job done. Herman ended up going about 5 innings, and definitely some questions that we can ask Boone here in this one. Another quick poll here on Herman. I think he was at about 87 pitches, and he'll always go back to, sort of cite some matchups that he sort of likes within the bullpen, going against some of the Rays hitters, again, coming up on that third time through the rotation, and ultimately the decision comes back to bite him in the butt. Ron Marinaccio struggles a little bit, which is pretty uncharacteristic of him, so looking for a big bounce back from the notch, and just ultimately backfired on him a little bit. It's one of those moves where he'd be praised if it worked out. If it didn't, lots of questions to be had. Herman actually looked pretty good. He's been pretty stable over the past few outings, not necessarily giving that complete length all the time. Sort of bottom end, he's giving you 4 and change, and at the top end, he's, knocking on the door of a complete game when he's really on. So, love to see that consistency from Domingo, but the Yankees end up dropping this game 8-2. Also, a quick note here on the Rays end, Drew Rasmussen actually hurt his elbow, I believe. He was placed on the 60-day IL, so wish it could have been before this outing. Obviously, he pitched really well against us, and a really talented pitcher in this league, but ultimately finds himself on the shelf after this one. Moving on to the second game on Friday night. I actually was listening to this one in the car on the way home from coaching duties. The Yankees battle throughout this game. They win at 6-5. They battle throughout the game. Garrett Cole has another pitching performance again. Sort of caught the tail end before he came out. He threw 5 innings, was up around 95 pitches or so, and the Yankees make the decision to obviously make that move to the pen, and it works out for them. And sort of homers for all for the Yankees. Again, the power is back, a theme that we'll be talking about throughout this episode. I know we talked a little bit about it in the previous episode as well. Anthony Rizzo with 2 homers in this one, and to close things out, pretty interesting. Pretty sure that Clay Holmes was used earlier in this game, but Wandy Peralta comes on to get the save. Moving on to the third game, Saturday afternoon. The Yankees take this one by a score of 9-8, and was a little reminiscing of when we were at the Trop. The Yankees come down from 6-0. Nestor has another tough start. Command just wasn't really there, and they sort of had his number here, and hopefully this isn't a theme because he's had a few inconsistent starts here over the past month or so, but Nestor does not end up pitching too well here in this one. The Yankees are saved on the back of Aaron Judge, who had 2 home runs. Anthony Volpe had a really great sequence on the base paths towards the end of the game, able to steal second, third, and come home on a wild pitch to help cut the deficit. Oswaldo came up big with 2 RBI single his bat's really been coming alive, and think that this will be a big part of this team bouncing back and rounding out into shape. Quick note on the Rays, Yandy Diaz with a grand slam to put them up. I believe it was 4-4. It was tied, and then Yandy ends up hitting a grand slam. And again, Wandy Peralta with the save here. That'd be 2 saves on the series, and definitely something to talk about as he continues to get these high leverage spots. Moving on to the final game of the series. This was yesterday afternoon. The Rays end up taking this game 8-7 to even out the series at 2 apiece. Clarke Schmidt does not have his best outing again here. I think he allowed 7 or 6 earned runs in this one. But the bullpen continues to be really strong, really held firm after Clarke Schmidt left the mound. There were 2 home runs by the Yankees in the 3rd inning as Waldo and Rizzo both with 2-run shots. And, a lot of drama coming down the stretch. In this one, Anthony Volpe had a 2-run home run to cut it to 1 in the 8th inning. And then in the 9th, Aaron Judge flies out to the deepest part of the track. And obviously everybody was in awe that maybe Judge could bring it back once again, but ultimately just fell a little bit short in this one. Would have been a really nice one to have to give us a 3-1, but ultimately I'll always take a split, and it's unfortunate we weren't able to make up ground in this divisional race, but at the same time, it was a really good series between these two once again. I'd say that the last one in the Trop was as well, but in a 3-game, obviously I have to look at it as win-loss. This one was a tie in a 4-game, so I'll definitely take the result, but certainly a lot to be desired coming out of this series. So we'll go through a couple of the key takeaways that I had from this series. The first one is that the offense appears to be back. I was talking about it a little bit in the previous episode. The Yankees end up scoring 24 runs in the series. The power is back in terms of the home runs, which obviously is always very important for the Yankees in generating offense. And we've definitely seen the return of Oswaldo Cabrera. He's doing a much better job of keeping that ball off the ground. When he was in that massive struggle to start the season, rolling over on a lot of balls, a lot of grounders to second base, just really having difficulty driving the baseball. We've seen him with a lot more extra base hits of recent, and some big home runs as well in a few of these games. And as well, just another note on the offense. Obviously, Aaron Judge is back. The 2-homer game. Rizzo had the 2-homer game. So those guys at the top obviously continuing to produce. But we see Anthony Volpe slide down in the batting order a little bit throughout this series. And I think this is really important for him. As guys continue to get healthy, we've seen Gleyber Torres getting that leadoff spot. I believe Jake Bauers got in that leadoff spot for a game this weekend, but I think having him towards the bottom, obviously he's a run producer, gets a lot of hits, draws a lot of walks as well, so I think maybe having him a little bit lower takes a little pressure off and just allows him to perform. And I think that as the lineup gets healthier and healthier, I think we probably see potentially DJ getting up into that leadoff spot, but Boone kind of likes Gleyber in that spot as well. I'm not super upset about that, but just need production from the top, and not that AV can do it, but I think that it's important for him to continue to get good at-bats, and he had some great at-bats down there throughout this series. Next takeaway we'll talk about is that the pitching staff definitely needs help. I talked about it maybe being a little more solidified, and I guess I was early to the gun here, because we really struggled in this one. Outside of Herman, he was the only one that had a pretty decent outing. I'd say, Garrett Cole did as well, but to his standards, I think he gave up like 5 earned, and that's definitely not going to cut it for him, and just really shows that there are a lot of holes in this rotation, and there's a lot to be desired in terms of any trades that could be made leading up to the deadline. Obviously that's a long ways away, but you can clearly see the holes that the that the Yankees have within this rotation now, and looking down into the system, I'm not really sure if there's that guy to come up. We talked a little bit about Davy Garcia being back up on the squad and pitching in the A's series. Maybe he's somebody that could factor in, but the Johnny Brito experience, I think, is all but over. They announced tonight that Jimmy Cordero is actually going to be opening this game with Brito to follow, and that move's just sort of lost its luster a little bit. I think that it was a good holdover piece, but I think ultimately that it was more of a stopgap than anything else, and I think that these issues are going to have to be solved externally. Flipping to a positive note, though, here for the last two, the Yankees bullpen remains at the top of the league. They continue to keep shutting down guys in the late innings, and as these batters continue to come alive, the power comes back, is really giving the Yankees great opportunity to be able to come back in some of these ball games, like we saw on Saturday being down 6-0. The bullpen did a good job allowing them to get back in this game. You see guys like Ian Hamilton, who has been a great shining light for this bullpen. He continues to pitch, really, really well, and I think that, soon enough we'll see him in some more high leverage spots as well. He did get a save, I believe, last week, and was pretty jazzed up about that, but he's pitched really, really well, and look forward to seeing guys like Marinaccio bounce back. Again, pretty uncharacteristic the other night, coming in after Domingo, but love to see him bounce back, and the guys at the back end, Clay Holmes has looked better, and maybe not having him in the permanent closer role is a good solution, just having him more of a high-leverage guy whenever you need him, which I think is how we sort of used him towards the end of the year, and sometimes it worked out, but the command still obviously has to be there for him, and just touching on this again, Wandy Peralta, 2 saves on this series. Will we see Crazy Wandy in that closer role now? Especially matchup-wise, if we have lefties coming up, it makes a lot of sense. That changeup has been magic recently, and he's just got that moxie to be that closer. I love the energy he brings. He's absolutely crazy, and I'm here for it. He's got great stuff, and especially with Lasagna out, I like him in that role as well, but hopefully we'll get him back later in the season, just continuing to make this bullpen more and more dynamic, but just appears like Michael King is going to be that, occasional super high leverage guy, but ultimately a bulk guy where you're looking to get 2+ innings from him. Obviously his stuff is great, and he will be used in late innings like that, but for the most part I think Boone is looking to stay away from that. And finally, the last key takeaway we'll talk about, the bottom half continues to contribute. Guys are continuing to slide down in the lineup as people return, like I was talking about, Oswaldo coming on pretty strong. Jake Bauers has had a pretty good past few series, and sort of like what he can contribute from the offensive side. Defensively, he's fine, but another lefty bat and pretty good speed as well. Again, we saw him at the top of the lineup. And lastly, Anthony Volpe sliding down into that 6-7 spot. I wouldn't mind having him, down at 9 or 8 to help flip the lineup, but guys have been coming on strong down there, and I think it's important for this team to be able to produce throughout the lineup. Touching quickly on some injury news, Severino may be back this week, which is crazy as it sounds. He is going to be throwing in Somerset tomorrow night. I will be there. Just got my tickets, which is super exciting. So he could potentially return on Sunday. Aaron Boone is yet to rule it out, but they just want him to be up. I assume that he'll probably be throwing 75 to 80 pitches tomorrow night. So definitely be a good indicator of where he's sort of at in this process at the AA level. And we'll see if he's able to come back and contribute to this staff right away. Another update, we'll talk about Giancarlo Stanton. He resumed baseball activities over the past few days. No real timetable in terms of when he is expected to return, but definitely a good sign getting him back on the field, getting him in motion, and progressing back. I think we're sort of maybe in like the 4th week. I kind of forget where we are in terms of his injury cycle, I guess you could say, but it was pretty important. Aaron Boone came out and said that they do want him to continue to play outfield when he does return from this injury. I agree, not going to be an everyday thing, but he himself has even cited, and I personally believe that being more involved in the game, playing the field, definitely keeps you more engaged and ready to hit. Obviously, it's pretty tough to be a DH. Just coming off the bench and hitting, it's difficult to make a larger impact, so love to see that sort of announcement from them. The last injury news we'll talk about is Carlos Rodon, and he received his cortisone shot last week, actually, and over the past few days, he has thrown on Saturday and Sunday from about 60 to 75 feet, which is good to see. Hopefully that's a positive reaction from the cortisone shot. I believe that he's going to throw again today, so 3 days in a row will sort of give us a potentially good feel of where he is in terms of his recovery and sort of allow us to take a step back, look at what some next steps might be, and ultimately start to progress towards back on the field things. Obviously, 60 to 75 feet is not a ton, but definitely a start and some good news. Hopefully the cortisone shot is being received well in his system and helping him get back on the field. Finally, we'll talk about some matchups coming up over the next few. Just a quick note, sort of recap on the Yankees season overall. 23-19. We're half a game up on the Red Sox, as crazy as that sounds, for last place. So we're in 4th in the AL East. And we're now 8 games back from Tampa Bay. Again, would have been big to pick up that last game, get it to 7, and continue to shorten that gap with them. But super early in the season, we'd be in first place, and I think 4 divisions and within 2 games of every division. So not super concerned. Obviously, we have some guys coming back. We haven't played our best baseball and looking forward to some better days ahead. Shout out my man Zin. But talking about some of the next upcoming series, we have 4 games up in Toronto. Starting things off tonight, we have 3 games going to Cincinnati. Again, might see some Paul O'Neill games on the cast, always a treat. After that, the Yankees will have a day off before they return home to have a 3-game set with Baltimore. So some of these games, looking forward to sort of setting the table games, I think are really important. 4 against Toronto, obviously in division. The 3 against Cincinnati, hopefully that'll be a sweep. That would be a great momentum booster. For that day off, 3 games against Baltimore continues to be a tough team early on this season. But looking forward at the next few series as well. Like I was sort of talking about setting the table, we're going to have 3 at home against the Padres, who obviously have a stacked team, before we go on the road for a massive West Coast trip. And that would be 3 against Seattle and 3 against the Dodgers. So really looking to take care of business here on the East Coast and in Cincinnati and set the table to be able to have a little bit of wiggle room as we head out west. Seattle's a team I think that we match up well against, but obviously the Dodgers, an incredible franchise as well. But some good things to look forward to over the next couple of weeks, some good matchups, and hopefully a good opportunity to continue to roll, get back on track, and who knows, maybe even cut this deficit a little bit, but continue to play good ball and shore up some of the holes we've seen over the past few weeks. So that's going to do it for this recap. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below of this past series and how we're projecting looking out forward with some guys coming back and some things to look forward to over the next couple of weeks. But for now, that's going to do it for me, guys. This has been your boy Frankie Bones. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Peace out.